At the end of my company's year-end party, I came home to find my daughter collapsed at the door. My sister leaned against the wall, shrugging, just disciplined her. My parents stepped out cold. She deserved it. Shaking, I called for help. But when the medic saw my sister, she froze and whispered, "Ma'am, is that really your sister?" Because actually, the conference room sparkled with fairy lights and champagne glasses. On December 15th, everyone at Mir and Associates had dressed up for the annual celebration, and I stood near the window in my navy dress, watching snow drift past the downtown skyline. My phone buzzed 3 times in my clutch, but I ignored it. These events only happened once a year, and my boss had specifically mentioned wanting to discuss my upcoming promotion. Sarah, another drink. My colleague Jennifer appeared at my elbow with 2 flutes. I should probably head out soon. I glanced at my watch. 8:30. Amber's alone at home. Jennifer waved dismissively. "Isn't your sister staying with you? And your parents visited yesterday, right? She's fine." My sister Natalie had arrived from Portland 2 weeks ago, claiming she needed a break from her retail job. Our parents, Linda and George, had driven down from their retirement community in Florida to spend time with their granddaughter. The arrangement should have felt comforting. Instead, something had twisted in my stomach every morning when I left for work. Amber was 12, bright and sensitive, with her father's dark curls and my stubborn chin. After the divorce 3 years ago, David had moved to California for his new wife and rarely called. My daughter had learned to rely on herself, becoming quieter with each missed birthday call. The phone buzzed again. I pulled it out this time, seeing 3 missed calls from my home number. A text from Natalie Reed. "Everything under control. Don't rush." Something in those 5 words made my hands cold. I need to go. I set down my untouched champagne and grabbed my coat from the rack near the door. Jennifer called after me, but I was already in the elevator jabbing the lobby button. The descent felt endless. My heels clicked across the marble floor as I pushed through the revolving doors into the December night. Snow had started falling heavier, coating my hair and shoulders as I ran toward the parking garage. Traffic crawled through the slick streets. I gripped the steering wheel, taking side streets and alleys I normally avoided. The 20-minute drive stretched into 40. My phone sat silent in the cup holder, which somehow felt worse than another call. Our apartment building finally appeared, its brick facade covered in holiday decorations the landlord had installed last week. I abandoned my car in a visitor spot and sprinted toward the entrance, my heels slipping on ice-slick pavement. The elevator climbed to the 4th floor. The hallway stretched before me, our apartment door visible at the end. Something dark lay crumpled against it. I ran. Amber lay face down on the hallway carpet, one arm stretched toward the doorknob. Her favorite purple sweater was torn at the shoulder. Blood matted her dark curls on the left side of her head. "Amber." I dropped to my knees, my hands shaking as I touched her neck. A pulse. Thank God. Faint but steady. Her skin felt like ice. The apartment door swung open. Natalie leaned against the frame in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, arms crossed. Her blonde hair was pulled into a perfect ponytail. She looked utterly calm. "Oh, you're home." She examined her manicured nails. "Just disciplined her a bit." "What did you do?" I cradled Amber's head carefully, feeling the sticky warmth of fresh blood. My parents emerged from the living room behind Natalie. Linda wore her usual disapproving expression, lips pressed thin. George stood with his hands in his pockets, not meeting my eyes. "She deserved it," Linda announced. "The child has no respect. Talking back, refusing to do simple chores. We tried to help you raise her properly." "She's bleeding," I said, my voice cracking. "She's unconscious in the hallway." "Stop being dramatic." Natalie examined the doorframe as if it held more interest than her niece's body. She fell. Kids fall all the time. My hands fumbled with my phone. I dialed 911, giving our address through chattering teeth. The dispatcher's calm questions helped focus my panic. "Yes, she's breathing." "No, I don't know how long she's been unconscious. Please hurry." "You're overreacting," George muttered, making a scene like always. I ignored him, stripping off my coat to drape over Amber's still form. Her face looked so small against the dark carpet, lips tinged with blue. How long had she been out here? How many times had my phone buzzed while I sipped champagne and talked about promotions? The dispatcher stayed on the line, talking me through, checking Amber's breathing again, making sure she stayed stable. 8 minutes felt like 8 hours. Sirens wailed in the distance. I stayed on the floor, one hand on my daughter's shoulder, willing her to open her eyes. Natalie had retreated into the apartment. My parents stood in the doorway like sentries, not offering help or comfort. Footsteps pounded up the stairwell. Two paramedics emerged carrying equipment, a man and a woman in Navy uniforms. The woman took the lead, kneeling beside me with practiced efficiency. What happened? She pulled out a blood pressure cuff, wrapping it around Amber's thin arm. I just got home and found her like this. The words tumbled out. My sister said she disciplined her, but I don't know what that means. There's blood in her hair. She won't wake up. The male paramedic shone a light in Amber's eyes, checking pupil response. The woman palpated the back of my daughter's head carefully, her gloved fingers coming away crimson. Possible concussion. We need to stabilize her neck. They moved with synchronized efficiency, fitting a cervical collar around Amber's throat. Natalie appeared in the doorway again. The female paramedic glanced up from securing the collar, and her entire body went rigid. The blood pressure cuff slipped from her hands. Ma'am. She stared at my sister, all color draining from her face. Is that really your sister? Yes, Natalie. Why? The paramedic stood slowly, her partner looking up with confusion. She pulled me a few steps away, voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Because actually, I treated a little girl 2 years ago. Same apartment building, different floor. 8 years old. Multiple bruises. Broken arm. The injuries didn't match the story the parents gave. She swallowed hard. The mother looked exactly like your sister. Same face, same hair, but she gave the name Victoria Chen. I felt the blood drain from my face. That's impossible. I never forget a face, she said quietly, especially in cases like that. CPS was called, but the family disappeared before the investigation concluded. Her eyes held mine. The father's name was Robert Chen. The girl was Emma. Natalie stood in the doorway watching us. Her expression remained neutral, pleasant, even like she was observing something mildly interesting on television. Check this out, the male paramedic said. He had lifted Amber onto the stretcher. He pulled back her torn sweater, revealing bruises along her ribs in various stages of healing. Yellow-green older ones mingled with fresh purple marks. Finger-shaped impressions circled her upper arm. These are defensive wounds, the female paramedic said, her voice hardening. And this bleeding is from blunt force trauma, not a fall. I want to ride with her. My legs felt unsteady. Of course, but ma'am, I need to report this. It's mandatory. She pulled out her radio. And you should know that if your sister is who I think she is, she's dangerous. Very dangerous. The ride to Mercy General passed in a blur of sirens and monitoring equipment. Amber remained unconscious, her face obscured by an oxygen mask. I held her cold hand and whispered apologies into the antiseptic air. They rushed her into emergency the moment we arrived. A nurse guided me to a waiting area with gray chairs and year-old magazines. I sat alone, my evening gown incongruous among the worried families in sweats and jeans. A doctor appeared after 30 minutes that felt like 30 years. Your daughter has a severe concussion and 3 cracked ribs. There's evidence of repeated trauma over several weeks. We've contacted Child Protective Services and the police. Will she wake up? The scans show no brain bleeding, which is good, but we're keeping her sedated for now to let the swelling reduce. She should regain consciousness within 24 hours. He sat in the chair beside me. Can you tell me what happened? I explained everything. Coming home from the party, finding Amber collapsed, my sister's casual cruelty. The words sounded insane as they left my mouth, my own family, my own sister. The doctor listened without interruption, making notes. We see this more than people realize. Generational abuse patterns. Family members enabling harm. 2 police officers arrived an hour later. They took my statement in a private room, recording everything. Detective Williams was in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Her partner, Officer Brooks, looked fresh out of the academy. We went to your apartment, Detective Williams said. Nobody was there. No clothes in the guest room. No sign anyone had been staying with you. Your parents' car is gone from the visitor parking. They ran. The reality settled like stones in my stomach. We've issued a bolo for all 3. Can you provide photos? I scrolled through my phone, finding pictures from Thanksgiving. Natalie smiling beside the turkey she'd insisted on cooking. My parents with Amber between them, everyone looking happy, normal. The perfect family holiday. Send those to this email. Detective Williams handed me a card. Now tell me everything you know about your sister's past. I knew so little. Natalie had always been my parents' favorite. 5 years younger and infinitely more charming. She'd moved around a lot different cities every few years. Portland, Seattle, Denver, Phoenix. She worked retail jobs that never seemed to last. Dated men she never introduced to the family. She was married once, I said slowly. Maybe 10 years ago. I don't remember much about it. It didn't last long. A few months. Do you know her ex-husband's name? James something? She never talked about it. Detective Williams exchanged a look with Officer Brooks. We'll run a thorough background check. The paramedics' tip about the Chen family is being followed up. If your sister was using an alias, we need to know why. They left me with instructions to stay at the hospital. A social worker appeared with paperwork and sympathetic platitudes. I signed forms giving permission for photographs of Amber's injuries to be shared with law enforcement. Around midnight, they moved her to a private room. I sat beside the bed, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest beneath white blankets. Monitors beeped rhythmically. Someone had cleaned the blood from her hair, revealing a line of stitches above her left ear. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You always were too soft. Maybe next time you'll raise her right. I showed it to the officer stationed outside the door. He called it in immediately, requesting a trace on the number. Jennifer texted asking if I was okay, saying my sudden departure had everyone worried. I couldn't formulate a response that made sense. Sorry, can't make it to the after party. My sister beat my daughter unconscious. Have a great night. I turned off my phone. Sleep came in fitful snatches on the uncomfortable chair. Nurses checked vitals every 2 hours, their soft footsteps and quiet voices oddly comforting. Around 4 a.m., Amber's fingers twitched against mine. Baby, I leaned forward. Amber, can you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. The night nurse appeared, checking her pupils again with a small flashlight. Good signs, she murmured. Doctor will be pleased. Dawn filtered through the window blinds, painting everything in shades of gray. My muscles ached from sleeping upright. My evening gown was wrinkled and stained with dried blood. I must have looked like I'd survived my own disaster. Detective Williams returned at 7, bringing coffee and a bag of bagels from the cafeteria. Her expression was grim. We found something. She opened a laptop, turning it toward me. Your sister has 4 different identities in 4 different states. Natalie Porter, Victoria Chen, Rebecca Morrison, Diane Stafford. Same woman, same face, different names. The screen showed driver's licenses, each with my sister's face, but different addresses, ages, even eye colors. In one, she was brunette, in another, a redhead. Each identity had a family situation that ended badly. Detective Williams continued. The Chen family was the case the paramedic remembered. CPS investigation for child abuse before they vanished. She clicked to another file. The Morrison identity was in Denver. Another child abuse report, but Diane Morrison claimed it was the stepfather and that she was protecting the kid. The investigation was dropped when they moved. Detective Williams pulled up more files. Rebecca Stafford in Phoenix. That one's worse. Her boyfriend was arrested for breaking a 10-year-old boy's arm. Rebecca testified against him, played the horrified girlfriend, and got custody of the kid she'd been dating the father for. Where are these children now? I asked, my voice barely audible. Foster care, most of them. Some with relatives. They all tell similar stories. A nice woman moves in or starts dating their parent. Seems wonderful at first, then gradually becomes cruel. Punishments for minor infractions. Isolating the kid from the other parent. If anyone questions it, she disappears and starts over somewhere new. I stared at the screen. My sister's face multiplied across aliases and lies. Why children? That's what the FBI is trying to figure out. We've been in contact with them since 3 a.m. This crosses state lines. Multiple jurisdictions. She closed the laptop. Your parents enabled her. Probably helped her move and establish new identities. We're looking into their finances now. I let her into my home, I said, the words choking out. I left my daughter alone with her. You had no reason to suspect, Detective Williams said gently. She's good at what she does. The pattern shows she targets single parents, usually ones with demanding jobs. Detective Williams continued. She offers help, makes herself indispensable, waits until the parent is dependent on her presence. Then the abuse starts always when the parent isn't around. The night I worked late last week, Amber seemed scared when I got home, I said. She said she'd forgotten to do the dishes, and Aunt Natalie got upset. I told her to be more considerate since Natalie was doing us a favor. Don't do that to yourself, Detective Williams said. She's a predator. She knows exactly how to manipulate everyone involved. A nurse stuck her head into the room. Your daughter's waking up. I rushed to the bedside. Amber's eyes opened slowly, unfocused and confused. She blinked at the white ceiling, the IV in her arm, the monitors surrounding her bed. Mom, her voice came out as a croak. I'm here, baby. You're safe. You're in the hospital. Tears streamed down my face. Is Aunt Natalie here? Panic flooded her expression. She tried to sit up, gasping at the pain. No, honey, no. She's gone. She can't hurt you anymore. Amber collapsed back against the pillows, sobbing with relief. The sound broke something inside me. My 12-year-old daughter had been terrified in her own home, and I'd been blind to it. A pediatric trauma specialist arrived later that morning. Dr. Pamela Winters had gray hair and a gentle manner that immediately put Amber at ease. They talked privately for an hour while I paced the hallway outside Detective Williams, keeping me company. "She's asking for you," Dr. Winters said when the door finally opened. Her expression was carefully neutral. Amber sat propped on pillows, looking small and fragile. She twisted the edge of the blanket between her fingers. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you," she whispered. "Aunt Natalie said if I told anyone, she'd say I was lying to get attention because Dad left. She said Grandma and Grandpa would back her up, that nobody would believe me. Tell me now, everything." I pulled the chair close and took her hand. The story emerged in painful fragments. It started small. Natalie criticizing how Amber ate, how she dressed, how she spoke, suggesting improvements in a friendly way. Then the improvements became demands. Clean your room to Natalie's impossible standards, or lose phone privileges. Do the dishes perfectly, or skip dinner. Complete homework faster, or stand facing the corner for an hour. "Grandma and Grandpa visited 2 weeks ago," Amber said. "I thought they'd help, but they said Aunt Natalie was teaching me discipline, that I was spoiled because you worked too much and felt guilty." Her voice dropped. Grandma held my arms while Aunt Natalie hit me with a wooden spoon. She said it was for talking back. My vision blurred with rage and tears. Last night, I dropped a glass washing dishes. It slipped because my hands were wet. She touched the bandage on her head. Aunt Natalie got so mad. She grabbed my hair and slammed my head against the counter. Then she dragged me to the door and pushed me out into the hallway. She said I could come back when I learned to be careful. "You were unconscious in the hallway for at least 30 minutes before I got home," I said. I remember trying to knock, Amber whispered, but everything got fuzzy. She started crying again. I thought I was going to die out there. Dr. Winters stepped in. "That's enough for now. She needs rest." Over the next week, the investigation expanded. The FBI discovered that my parents had been helping Natalie for over a decade. Bank records showed regular transfers of money always after she moved to a new city. Email correspondence revealed they knew about the abuse allegations, dismissing them as lies from ungrateful children and vindictive ex-partners. 3 other families came forward after the story hit local news. Children who had been in Natalie's care, parents who had welcomed her help, all told similar stories. The pattern was undeniable. They caught my parents in North Carolina trying to flee toward the Canadian border. Natalie wasn't with them. She'd vanished somewhere between our apartment and the state line. Linda and George were extradited back to face charges of child endangerment conspiracy and obstruction of justice. I attended their arraignment sitting in the gallery and watching them shuffle in wearing orange jumpsuits. Linda's perfect hair hung limp around her shoulders. George had aged a decade in 2 weeks. Neither would look at me. Their lawyer argued they were elderly confused, manipulated by their troubled daughter. The prosecutor presented years of evidence showing deliberate, calculated assistance in Natalie's crimes. The judge denied bail. Amber came home after 5 days in the hospital. I'd taken a leave of absence from work, much to my boss's frustration. The promotion could wait. Everything could wait. We started therapy together twice a week with Dr. Winters. Amber had nightmares, waking up screaming that someone was in the apartment. I installed new locks as security system cameras in every room. It still didn't feel like enough. Jennifer visited bringing flowers and an awkward sympathy card. "I'm so sorry. If I'd known if any of us had realized." "How could you?" I said. "I lived with her and missed it." "The police came to the office asking questions about your schedule," Jennifer said. "How often you worked late if you seemed stressed." She perched on the sofa arm. "Everyone feels terrible. We were encouraging you to stay at the party." I'm the one who should have been there. A month passed. Natalie remained at large despite FBI bulletins and media coverage. She'd likely changed her appearance again, assumed a new name, moved to a different region. The FBI agent assigned to the case, Agent Morris, called weekly with updates that never contained actual news. Amber slowly returns to herself. The bruises faded, the stitches came out, the nightmares became less frequent. She started eating normally again, laughing at stupid videos on her phone, talking about school friends. David called for the first time in 6 months after a friend sent him a news article. He was horrified, apologetic, full of explanations about why he'd been absent. I let him talk, then hung up when he suggested Amber come stay with him in California for a while. "Like hell," I muttered to the dial tone. In March, 3 months after everything fell apart, I got a call from Agent Morris. "We found her. My heart stuttered. Natalie? Natalie had been arrested in Tucson using the name Patricia Walsh. She'd been working at a preschool, dating a single father with a 6-year-old daughter. The school noticed bruises on the child and called authorities. When police arrived, Natalie ran. A fingerprint match confirmed her identity. She'll be extradited here for trial. Agent Morris continued. With the evidence we've gathered across multiple states, she's looking at 20 to 30 years minimum. What about my parents? They took a plea deal. Your mother got 8 years. Your father got 6. They'll serve time in federal prison for their role in enabling interstate crimes. The trial happened in October. I sat in the courtroom every single day, Amber beside me holding my hand. We listened to testimonies from social workers, from children Natalie had abused, from families she destroyed. The evidence was overwhelming. Natalie showed no emotion throughout. She wore conservative dresses and kept her hair neat, playing the role of a normal woman caught in unfortunate circumstances. Her lawyer tried to argue mental illness trauma from her own childhood, a desperate need for control stemming from feeling powerless. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty on all counts: child abuse, assault, conspiracy, fraud. The judge sentenced her to 45 years in prison without possibility of parole for 30. Before they led her away, Natalie's eyes found mine across the courtroom. She smiled, just a small curve of her lips there and gone. I smiled back because she'd lost everything, while Amber and I still had each other. Outside the courthouse, news cameras clustered around our lawyer. Attorney Richard Chen, ironically sharing his surname with one of Natalie's aliases, gave a statement about justice and protecting children. I declined to comment, wanting only to go home. Amber started 7th grade that fall. She joined the art club and made friends with a girl named Taylor, who loved horror movies and had a collection of vintage band shirts. Life felt almost normal again, though we both knew it would never be the same kind of normal as before. I got the promotion eventually, though. The shine had worn off. More money was nice, but I negotiated for flexible hours and the ability to work from home 3 days a week. My boss agreed after everything that had happened. We moved to a new apartment across town. A fresh start, no hallway where terrible things had occurred. Amber picked a room and we painted it teal, her favorite color. She hung fairy lights and posters, making the space entirely hers. Some nights I still wake up in a cold sweat, remembering the sight of my daughter crumpled against that door, the blood in her hair, my sister's casual shrug. Those moments are burned into my memory. Permanent scars, invisible to everyone else. But then Amber calls out from her room, asking if I want to watch a movie with her, and the present floods back. She's here. She's safe. We survived. A letter arrived last week from the prison. Natalie requesting to be added to my visitor list. I threw it away without finishing it, then dug it out of the trash and gave it to Agent Morris. Evidence of continued harassment, he said. She'll try to contact you. Manipulators don't stop. They just adapt. I'm ready for it now. The person who'd been blind and trusting died in that hospital waiting room. The woman who emerged is harder, more suspicious, infinitely more protective. Amber flourishes under this new vigilance. Therapy continues helping her process trauma and rebuild trust. Dr. Winters says she's remarkably resilient. She has a good mother, the doctor told me during one session. That makes all the difference. I'm trying to believe that. The discovery of Natalie's other identities opened a Pandora's box I hadn't anticipated. Agent Morris called me in for a meeting at the FBI field office downtown. He sat across from me in a sterile conference room, files stacked between us, like accusations. We need you to look at something. He opened the first folder revealing photographs of children. Dozens of them, different ages and ethnicities, all with haunted eyes. These are the victims we've confirmed so far. 11 children, across 7 states, over 12 years. My hands trembled as I looked through the photos. A boy with a cast on his arm, a girl with a black eye poorly covered with makeup, another child with scars on her forearms. Each face told a story of suffering. There's more. Agent Morris pulled out another folder. Your sister kept journals. We found them in a storage unit she rented under the name Victoria Chen. The journals were disturbing beyond comprehension, page after page detailing her methods, her justifications, her satisfaction at breaking down children's spirits. She wrote about finding single parents who were too busy or too guilty to notice. She described manipulating grandparents and other family members to support her. One entry from 2 years ago made me physically ill. The key is to make them feel like they deserve it. Children are so eager to believe they're the problem. A few weeks of consistent messaging, and then they'll apologize for things that aren't their fault. They'll accept punishment without question. Linda and George understand this. They raised me the same way. I pushed the journal away. She learned this from my parents. It appears so. We've been interviewing people who knew your family growing up. Neighbors, teachers, family friends. Agent Morris's expression was carefully neutral. Multiple people described your mother as controlling and your father as passive. Several mentioned concerns about how your sister was treated, but nobody reported anything official. The puzzle pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Natalie hadn't become a monster. She'd been created as one, then perfected the craft on others. My parents hadn't just enabled her abuse, they taught her how. What about me? The question came out small. Why wasn't I like her? Different birth order, different temperament, different reactions to the same environment. You were the older child, the responsible one. You escaped by being perfect controllable. Your sister escaped by learning to control others. He closed the folders. The psychiatric evaluation suggests she has antisocial personality disorder with sadistic features. She genuinely enjoys causing pain. I left the FBI office feeling hollowed out. Everything I believed about my childhood, my family had been a carefully constructed lie. The happy holidays, the family photos, the appearance of normalcy. All of it had masked something rotten underneath. Dr. Winters helped me process these revelations. Children don't choose their families, she said. You survived yours by developing empathy and responsibility. Your sister survived by developing cruelty and manipulation. Neither of you had good options. I brought her into Amber's life. You trusted your sister because that's what we're supposed to do with family. The failure was hers, not yours. Jennifer brought work to the apartment, sometimes helping me stay current during my leave. We'd sit at the kitchen table with laptops and coffee, pretending this was a normal work-from-home arrangement. The rumor mill at the office has been brutal, she admitted one afternoon. People asking invasive questions, speculating about your family. HR had to send out a memo about appropriate workplace conversations. Great, I'm the office spectacle now. Actually, no. Most people are horrified. Teresa from accounting started a meal train for you and Amber. Marketing pulled money for gift cards. Everyone wants to help, but doesn't know how. The kindness from colleagues I barely knew outside of meetings surprised me. Casseroles appeared at our door with reheating instructions. Gift certificates to restaurants and grocery stores arrived in my work mailbox. A woman from the legal department whose name I'd never learned sent a huge box of art supplies for Amber with a note. My niece loves drawing when she's stressed. Hope this helps. These small gestures mattered more than anyone realized. Each one said, "We see you. You're not alone. This wasn't your fault." Amber's school assigned her a counselor, Mrs. Patricia Hammond, who specialized in trauma cases. They met twice a week during lunch period. Amber was resistant at first, insisting she was fine. It helps to talk to someone who isn't me, I told her. Someone who has no connection to what happened. Mrs. Hammond wears these crazy sweaters with cats on them, Amber said after her third session. Today's had a cat playing piano. It was so dumb it made me laugh. Small victories felt monumental. Amber laughing, Amber sleeping through the night, Amber eating breakfast without me having to cajole her. Each milestone marked progress away from that December night. The preliminary hearing for my parents happened in April. Their lawyer tried to argue they were victims of Natalie's manipulation, elderly people, confused by their daughter's lies. The prosecutor demolished this defense with emails, bank records, and testimony from neighbors who'd heard them discuss helping Natalie start fresh multiple times. One email from my mother to Natalie, dated 3 years prior, read, "That woman in Denver won't stop calling authorities about you. George thinks you should move again. We can wire money for first and last month's rent. Remember to use a different last name this time." They'd known. They'd always known. And they'd helped her escape consequences repeatedly. The judge ordered them held without bail, confirming the earlier arraignment decision. As they were led from the courtroom, my mother finally looked at me. Her expression held no remorse, no shame, only anger that I had destroyed their family by involving authorities. I realized then that she still didn't believe Natalie had done anything wrong. In her mind, the real crime was my betrayal of family loyalty by protecting my daughter. David showed up at our new apartment unannounced in May. I opened the door to find him standing there with flowers and a stuffed animal looking uncomfortable in an expensive suit. "I want to see Amber," he said. "To apologize, to help if I can." He shifted the flowers. "I know I've been absent. I know I failed her, but I'm her father, Cindy. I have rights." Rights. The word tasted bitter. You haven't called in 6 months. You missed her birthday. You forgot Christmas. But now that she's been traumatized and it's all over the news, suddenly you're father of the year. That's not fair. You're right. What's not fair is explaining to our daughter why her father disappeared when he got a new wife. What's not fair is her learning to expect nothing from you so she won't be disappointed. I started closing the door. Come back when you've actually been present for more than a week. I'm getting a lawyer. His voice turned cold. I'm filing for partial custody. Go ahead. Explain to a judge why you've contributed nothing to her life for 3 years, then suddenly want custody after she's been abused. Explain your 6 months of silence after her hospitalization. I'm sure that'll go well. I slammed the door. Amber appeared in the hallway, having heard everything. I don't want to see him, she said quietly. I don't want to visit California and pretend we're a happy family. He left us. I know, baby. He won't force you, I promise. David's lawyer did contact my lawyer. Richard Chen responded with a detailed timeline of David's absence, his failure to pay child support on time, and his lack of involvement in Amber's medical crisis. The custody threat evaporated after one phone call. David sent a check for $5,000 and a note saying he'd respect Amber's space, money instead of presents. Typical. Summer arrived bringing humidity and the promise of long days with no school schedule. Amber and I established new routines. Morning walks around our neighborhood, afternoons at the library or the art museum, evenings cooking dinner together, experimenting with recipes that sometimes worked and often didn't. Taylor came over frequently. She was a good influence, funny and creative without being wild. They'd spend hours in Amber's room drawing or watching videos, their laughter filtering through the apartment like music. Taylor's mom wants to meet you, Amber mentioned one evening. She keeps saying she should introduce herself since we're always together. That's nice. Invite them for dinner this weekend. Catherine Morris turned out to be a physical therapist with red hair and an easy laugh. She arrived with wine and stories about Taylor's dramatic streak. She's wanted to be a director since she was 6, Catherine explained. Watching the girls through the kitchen doorway as they debated camera angles for some video project. Everything's a production with her. Getting dressed for school becomes a costume design challenge. Amber's been so much lighter since they became friends. Taylor told me what happened, Catherine said quietly. Not the details, just that Amber had been through something hard. For what it's worth, your daughter is resilient and kind. You've done something right. We became friends, Catherine and I. She understood single parenting struggles having divorced Taylor's father 5 years ago. We commiserated about custody arrangements and work-life balance over coffee, while our daughters plotted creative projects. Sometimes I worry I'm too protective now, I admitted during one of our morning walks. I check on Amber constantly. I panic if she's 5 minutes late texting back. I know it's not healthy. You're healing too, Catherine said, adjusting her sunglasses. Give yourself time. Trauma doesn't disappear overnight. You're allowed to be hypervigilant for a while. Agent Morris called in July with news that Natalie's trial date was set for October. The prosecution is confident, he said. We have evidence from multiple jurisdictions, testimony from numerous victims, her own journals. She'll be convicted. What if she's not? Then we retry her in another state. We have enough charges to keep her in prison for life several times over. She's not getting out. The certainty in his voice helped quiet some of my anxiety. Natalie would face justice. My parents would face justice. The system was working slowly but surely. Amber started reading again, something she'd stopped after that December night. She devoured fantasy novels, losing herself in magical worlds where good triumphed and heroes saved the day. I like stories where kids are powerful, she explained when I asked about her reading choices, where they fight back and win. You fought back, I said. You survived. I guess it doesn't feel like winning, she said thoughtfully. It feels like I just didn't die. Dr. Winters explained this was normal. Survivors often struggled to see their survival as victory when they still carried trauma. Healing is her win, the doctor told me. Every day she processes more, grows stronger, reclaims herself. That's the triumph. On the anniversary of that December night, Amber and I baked cookies together in our new kitchen. We didn't discuss what we were marking, but we both knew. 1 year since everything shattered, and then slowly began rebuilding. Mom, Amber said, looking up from decorating a sugar cookie with purple icing, I'm glad you came home when you did. Me too, baby. Even though everything was terrible and scary, at least now I know you'll always believe me. You'll always protect me. I pulled her into a hug, careful of her still healing ribs and spirit. Always, forever, no matter what. We ate cookies and watched a ridiculous comedy, laughing at stupid jokes and throwing popcorn at the television. Just a regular Friday night for a mother and daughter who'd survived and held together. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Another case had been linked to Natalie's crimes, a family in Texas from 8 years ago. The FBI was reopening the investigation. More victims, more evidence, more years potentially added to her sentence. I deleted the alert without reading the full article. That chapter of our lives was closed. Natalie was behind bars. My parents were paying for their complicity, and Amber was safe in our home, decorated with her artwork and filled with her laughter.